Diagonal builds in Minecraft are one of the hardest things to get right. There is a lot of math and thinking that has to go into creating them. But in this video, I'm going to try and help you break through that barrier by teaching you a few tips and tricks that I use to do diagonal builds. There is more than one method, and each method can be used in different places depending on what you're trying to do. In this video, we're going to go over making a diagonal house from scratch, turning a house that's already been built into a diagonal house, which requires a different method. We'll also look at some other applications of diagonals. It doesn't just have to be houses, because with diagonals, you can truly make incredible things to really amplify your world. And at the very end, I'm going to teach you how to use curves, because I think they can apply to diagonals too for reasons that we'll get into. So let's get into the basics. So how do you make a diagonal? The way I like to do it is by separating my straight line into square segments like this, depending on how much I want to rotate it by. Say I want this straight line to be broken out into a diagonal that has 2 blocks per line, like this. Segmented off like this, we can just rotate it like this. Make sure that each segment is still a square once you're done with it, but it's rotated accordingly. From there, you can add other lines extending off of it, making sure to follow that square pattern, and you can finish off the square like this. You'll be left with these little gaps, but that's okay. That is a sign that you're doing it right. Here's an example with 3x3 blocks, rotating it a little bit clockwise, and we get this. We still have those little gaps, and each square is still the same size as it was before we rotated it. If you want to take an existing shape and rotate it, you can add your square segments above it as a sort of reference, and then do the rotations that we just talked about, and that becomes your shape. So how do we make a house out of this? Well, let's first make our segments. I'm going to use regular lines here, but I'm still going to break them up into 2x2 blocks because I like that rotation angle. As you can see, each side length is still the same number of blocks. For example, this is 8 blocks long, and so is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have these little gaps in the middle. Then I can place my foundation blocks. I'm going to leave a space on the outside here for the roof because I want it to overhang by 1, and this will help me figure out how to map the roof. These little squares that you make extend vertically as well. And then for the roof. The roofs are a bit hard. They're probably the hardest part, but as long as you make them follow your squares, they'll be correct. And you still have these little gaps in the middle though. But those little gaps can be filled just manually like this. And then you have your house. And if we rotate this house back so that it's just a square, it's just this. Now, changing a house that's already been built into a diagonal house is a bit different. There's a bit of math that goes into this one. So, the problem with changing a house like this using the method that we did, for example, laying it out in strips like this, rotating it, is that it gets too big. There's a lot of extra space. You can see that this square is much bigger than this square, and we'll get to that in a second. Even though the walls are still 7 blocks, the inside of this one is 61 blocks. There's 61 spaces in here. But in the original, there's only 25. So you've doubled your house area. It's too big. But the way to fix this is with trigonometry. Or math, whatever. Take the side length of your house and multiply it by the cosine of the angle that you're rotating by. In this case, I'm just using 45 degrees because I rotated it from there to there. When you multiply 7 by the cosine of 45 degrees, you get approximately 5 blocks. And so that is how long my walls will be in the diagonal version. And then it turns into this. You can already tell that this is very similar to that house over there in size. But what's even better is that it's still 25 blocks of floor on the inside. If you don't care about preserving area, just do this method. It's probably much easier. Now, there are other applications of diagonals too. We can take a straight bridge here and rotate it a little bit. So we have our 2 segments, and I'm going to break them out into 2x2 squares, like this. And then we make the bridge pattern follow this grid that we created. Eventually, you'll get good enough that you can memorize this grid or visualize it in your head, and you don't have to build it out. I've just built it out here as a visual for you guys who are maybe new to this. And it turns into this once you're done filling in the gaps that the diagonalization has created. And combining 2 diagonal builds together is a little bit tricky, but you can do it as long as you make sure that the squares still match up with each other when they intersect. Diagonals can also be used for roads, which is probably my favorite usage of them. So you have your road here. I'm going to break it out into square segments like this. Well, notice how this one only has 2 blocks. It's fine. I'm going to extend it out anyway and treat it like a regular square. And when we rotate it, we get this, mapping each block to where the rotation occurred. And see how these blocks only have 2 still? It's fine. We still kept the square. This is what we had previously, and this is what we have now. It creates a little bit of a wonky shape, but it is correct. It is perfectly diagonal. And once you fill in the gaps, you can easily see that. Now, last but not least, I'm going to talk about curves. Let's talk about curves, because curves are nice to look at. You know what I mean? This wonky diagram I have here is basically just how to measure out circles in Minecraft. I use an online circle generator, which I'll show in a moment. And these signs represent the diameter of the circle. So this is just circle of diameter 1, so just 1 block in the middle. This is diameter 3, 1, 2, 3. It creates this gray circle. This is diameter 5. It creates this yellow circle. 7 creates this gray one. 9 creates this yellow one. You get the idea. So when trying to measure out circular things like this, it's very useful to know the diameter of the circle you're working with so you can plug it into a generator. So for example, I chose my center point of these 2 circles to be here. I measured out the diameter. This is 27 blocks of diameter, and it creates this curve. So I use this circle generator. I'm going to put the link in the description, and I put my 27 that I have on this sign here into it, and I measure out just one of these quadrants, if you will. So you can see that this shape and this shape are the same. And then we go a little bit further and we get to 39. The thing with this is that each time you move a block, it doubles the diameter. So this is 27, 29, 31, 33, 35, 37, 39. I plugged 39 into there. And you can see that this purple shape and this outer deep slate shape are the same. This is useful for a few things. One of them is buildings. If you want to create a circular building with this shape, you can. But to go more in theme with this video and diagonal lines, you can use them on roads. So once again, you find your diameters, plug them into the circle generator. Each one of these colors is a different circle. Fill them in with the blocks that you want to use. And just like that, you have a nice curve to your road that's mathematically correct. And you can combine these roads with your diagonal roads that you just learned how to build. Diagonals are very niche. They're very useful for many different scenarios. You can use them in modern builds, medieval builds, any type of build, anywhere. And you can turn basically any shape into a diagonal. It might look wonky, but if you use the methods I taught you in this video, it'll be correct. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video about diagonals, and I hope you learned a few things. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, please. And if you haven't understood this, please leave a comment down below, and I will do my best to help you understand this a little bit better, because I am not the greatest at explaining things. But, that's all I got for today, so have a good day, and bye-bye.